Hello, welcome to Crypto Kid Podcast. So today I have a very special guest. He is a TEDxer and the co-founder and CEO of Hivemapper.
Hivemapper.
And Hivemapper. Oh, Hivemapper. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I get those confused. So why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself and how you got involved in the space?
Yeah, sure. Well, thanks for having me, first of all. This is fun. So I got started in mapping. I'm more of a mapping guy than I am a crypto guy. So I got started in mapping back in Yahoo days. That was really my first job out of school. It was a time when Yahoo was fighting Google, and they were kind of neck and neck. So it was a fun time to be at Yahoo. And what I started to see was that as Google invested in collecting their own data, the quality of their maps started to increase pretty dramatically relative to Yahoo's. And they started to take significant market share from us. And so, you kind of fast forward, and we obviously we're trying to get money internally to go and kind of compete with them for a lot of reasons that are not worth getting into. The Yahoo CEO and management at the time weren't interested in doing that, unfortunately. But if you kind of look forward, it was really clear that just given how expensive it was to build maps, that would really become the domain of either very, very wealthy companies like Google or very, very wealthy governments. And that didn't sit well with me. And so the issue has always been is how do you cost effectively collect and then process this data? And so that's always been the trick. And if you can solve that problem, then you actually have a fighting chance to build another competitor to Google Maps that is actually has the ability to go into places like Lagos, Nigeria, or Manila, or certain parts of South America and do it cost effectively. And then also build a map that is refreshing at a much, much higher frequency than Google because it's just so incredibly cost effective to create. So it took us a while, but we finally kind of found the right recipe to go do that in what we're building today in Hivemapper. And so the idea is that you buy a dash cam, and then you put that dash cam. So it's a dash cam that looks and smells like many other dash cams that you've probably seen. You put that dash cam into your car, and then you just drive, right? And so what's happening is all the imagery that is being collected from that dash cam gets automatically uploaded to Hivemapper. We then take that imagery, process it, transform it, and then our customers are really other businesses, right? So we're selling these mapping APIs that other businesses are using all that data, right? So even if you never use Google Maps, you are still interacting with Google Maps data. If you go to Uber, if you use FedEx, right? If you go to an insurance application, you use a local government website, you use Airbnb or Yelp or any of these services, they pay Google Maps for all of that data.
Okay, that's really awesome. Now, I was watching your TEDx, and in there you were talking about drones. So
Yeah.
are you going to be experimenting with drones a little bit with Hivemapper?
Drones, I think, look, we definitely try drones. I think drones are super interesting. There's two problems with drones. Drones are the battery technology has not improved dramatically from when I actually gave that TEDx talk a bunch of years ago. And then the other big issue is regulation, right? So you not only have FAA level regulation, but you then have kind of state and local regulation. So what does that mean? That means is from a data collection perspective, it's cost prohibitive to actually collect that data via drone. So while a drone initially kind of looked interesting, it is definitely not scaled the same way that our dashcam product is starting to scale. And it just scales like effortlessly, right? There's, I don't know how many, there's a lot of cars on the road, billions at this point. And so, most people have a car. And so it's a lot easier to deploy and a lot easier to scale and grow on a worldwide basis. Hopefully we get to come back to drones and do drones at a future point.
Okay. I'm glad you brought up regulations too, because that brings up my next question. Now, with the FTX scandal and everything that's going on with that. What are your thoughts about centralized versus decentralized and the SEC getting involved, and should they get involved because of what happened with FTX? Should there be more monetization, more laws put in place to help make people, how do I say, how people trust the product and trust blockchain so that it's transparent?
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, look, whether you're doing a crypto business or you're doing a non-crypto business, I always feel like the right approach is to be really transparent, with your customers, with your employees, with everybody, right? Most people are really smart and they can kind of figure, like, even if you try to hide stuff from them, it's just not going to work very long. And then you're just going to end up looking like an idiot. And so it's better to just be like really transparent with people and be like, look, we're dealing with reality. Here's the problems that we're facing, right? And, most people are going to want to help you solve those problems, right? Not try to like beat the crap out of you. So I think it almost goes well beyond crypto. Now, crypto, to your point, has, just given all the issues like FTX, it has gone in debt from a trust perspective. That's not a great place to be, right? And so I think it's really important and incumbent upon projects like Hivemapper and others to be even more transparent, right, and to decentralize even more aggressively than maybe even 2 or 3 months ago, right? I think the other part of crypto that we always talked about is, look, like the initial people who got into crypto, and Sam Bankman-Fried, I think, is one of these people. They came from a trader mentality, right? And the trader mentality, I think, is very different than the builder mentality. And what we need right now in crypto is we need more builders, right? People who are really in the ecosystem to build products and services that are better, faster, easier, cheaper, so forth, than the competitive products out there. And use crypto to enhance the fact that they're easier and faster and more cost effective, right? I think Hivemapper is one of those examples. There's others as well. And by actually embedding utility into all these different projects, I think that shows customers, that shows people who are really excited about crypto. And it also shows a lot of the critics that, like, look, there's actual useful things here being created utilizing crypto technology.
Okay. Yeah. And you were talking about tokens. So why don't you tell me a little bit about the honey tokens, and is it find the value in mining honey tokens, and how ultimately this X to earn model ties back to increasing Web3 adoption?
Sure. So look, when we designed the entire mapping network that we're creating here with Hivemapper, we looked at it from the perspective of, what are the things that customers care about, right? If you're a customer looking to use a map and map data and imagery data of streets, what do you care about? You care about coverage, right? Like, do you have my specific area that I'm interested in covered or not? Is it high quality, right? Like, in other words, is the imagery that you're collecting in the data really high quality that I trust it? And then finally, is it fresh, right? Is it from a year ago, or is it from like, a week or two ago, or even better, from a day ago? So what we designed the honey token said, look, like, this is not a science project, right? We're not just out there collecting data for the sake of it so we can, like, earn honey tokens. Like, we're doing it because there's a customer at the end of the other side who cares about those three things: coverage, quality, and freshness. And so the honey token, you just drive around, and with the Hivemapper dashcam, obviously, and that Hivemapper dashcam is mining honey tokens as it drives. Okay. And if you're driving in certain areas where the coverage is very much in need, right, and the camera's mounted properly so that we're getting a good high quality image, and you're driving on roads that haven't been driven by, 5,000 other people with dash cams, so like Broadway and Manhattan, maybe, as we kind of grow up here and the map gets to scale, that one's probably going to earn less than if you're, let's say, driving in a suburb of New York City, right? Or maybe the back alley of like, a college campus where they like have delivery and warehouses and stuff like that, right? And so that's how we design the Honey token, is to reward those contributors that are actually providing meaningful value to customers.
Okay, so now you have to have the dash cam to able to access those Honey tokens or to earn those. So how is it exactly set up? Do you have to like put it in the front, the side?
Yeah, good question. So there's two supported mounts. So you can either put it in the front facing, which is probably the more typical. And then the other one is side facing, but it has to be facing the side, which is what we refer to as stores and doors. So it's really looking at the sidewalk and the houses and the businesses. And so either of those mounts are supported. You can put it interior or you can put it exterior. There is like one little catch, maybe it's not even a catch. When you're mounting the dash cam, you just need to make sure that it's not showing too much of your hood of the car. So we kind of walk you through it and help you make it easier and so forth. But in generating high quality image, we don't want to see the hood of your car. We want to see the outside. So you just have to mount it properly.
Okay. Can you have more than one camera or dash cam set up?
You can have two dash cams. I mean, yeah, you could have two per car effectively.
Oh, nice. Now, how did you make sure the drivers across the globe can use it, whether they are familiar with crypto industry or not?
Yeah, I mean, look, this is when we explain the concept to people, like, a lot of times I go to, you've been to a lot of these crypto conferences as well, and people explain to you like what they're doing. And you're like, look, I'm in crypto. I'm like a fairly smart person and I have no clue what you're doing, And sometimes, so it's like a little frustrating. I think the concept of Hivemapper is pretty easy, right? Like everybody uses maps. There's a dash cam, you install the dash cam is helping build the map. And then a lot of people drive, right? And if you help us build this map, then you're part of the team, you're part of the community that is growing this thing. And Honey is kind of how we all stay economically aligned, right? Like if you're successful in terms of helping contribute to the map, right, and I'm successful in terms of helping grow the map, right, we're all in it together, right? We want coverage to grow in the right places. We want quality, like we want customers using it. Like Honey is that connective tissue that makes sure that we're really all incentivized to be doing the same thing.
Now, going back to Honey token, are they strong enough as an incentive to get the global community to start using the dash cam?
It's a good question. Look, I think so. And the reason I say that is I think there's a couple of key constituents, right? Well, actually, let me pause there. Let me start from we're not asking people to do things that they don't do, right? In other words, people drive, right? Some people drive a lot. Some people drive, a bit. Some people drive a little. But regardless, a lot of, if you just look at the number of people who are spending, 20, 30 miles on the road every single day, that's a big number, right? In the dash cam itself, even if you put aside the Hivemapper side, right, in the mapping and helping us grow a map and so forth, has utility, right? Especially if you're like a professional driver, like an Uber driver, a Lyft driver, a DoorDash driver. If you get into an accident, right, you really want video of that accident recorded, because it can help you from an insurance perspective and a safety perspective. Okay, so that's where we kind of start from. That's that exists out in the world. We're not asking people to do stuff, right? There's real utility there. And what we say to them is say, look, you buy this Hivemapper dash cam, you get all of that utility. You're already driving. And this is really icing on the cake, right? This is like, you're already doing these other things that has some utility to you as well. If you're also helping contribute a map, you're helping your local community, right? Not only are you helping FedEx and UPS and Uber and those types of organizations, you're helping your local community understand it at a much, much more precise level, right? With a much richer understanding than Google, right? If you want a fresher version of Google Street View in your neighborhood, there's nobody to call, like there's no one's going to answer your call and be like, oh yeah, we'll get a Google Street View car right, out there. But if you want a fresher version of, of a map of your neighborhood or your city, you can help, right? Like you could actually do that yourself, right? With a bunch of friends. And so that's really cool, right? Is this idea of empowering people in a local level and giving them the tools to create a better version of something that, they use every single day.
Yeah, dude, I completely understand, because I know where you're coming from. I was going to a place to help out, because right now we just went through a hurricane, and I'm kind of helping out with repairing homes and all that, and I'm doing restoration. And we were going on Google Maps, and we're just like, we can't find this place. And it's just like, yeah, it's Google and Siri. Who knows where you'll end up when you use those apps.
Right. And especially
So,
like areas like
mm-hmm.
that, right after they're hit by some sort of natural disasters, or any sort of weather event, they change, right? They change pretty dramatically.
Yes.
And so then you just, Google or whoever has like their schedule, and they're not going to show up, in your city for another 12, maybe 18 months. Right. So you could be dealing with something that's just like effectively just wrong for like a good year and a half.
Exactly. Now, how has the progress and acceptance been so far globally?
It's been great. Like we've definitely done very well in terms of selling dash cams in the United States, in Canada, and South Korea, in the UK as well. So there's definitely like those markets have been very robust. But look, there's definitely other parts of the world so I think we've sold the dash cam into 66 countries, about 2,100 cities. But there's definitely countries, across South America, across Europe still, across Asia, Southeast Asia, where, we definitely need more folks coming in and helping grow this community, right? The community is like really engaged. Like people are like, I'm going to build this mount to put it external, and it's going to be really easy. And so they're trying to kind of help each other as well. And so there's just a tremendous amount of enthusiasm within the community today. And we definitely want to see that expand into many, many other countries and just get a lot richer and deeper, right? What most people don't realize is that, some people say to me like, whatever, 5,800 or 6,000 people have already bought the dash cam. It's too late. I was like, the world is a very, very, very big place, right? Even a metro area like a Los Angeles, you just need like a significant number of these dash cam contributors to be able to like just sustain, not only build the map once, but then just sustain the map on a continuous basis.
How many dash cams have you sold so far?
Well, it's a little under 6,000 right now.
Okay.
Yeah. And so, especially in this kind of crazy market that we're in right now, it's definitely a number that we're quite proud of.
That's pretty impressive. And honestly, everybody got to start somewhere. Yeah. I remember, honestly, dude, I remember when I first started podcasting, I only had like 39 subscribers on my YouTube channel, and now it's just blown up. So I'm very grateful, and I'm sure you will too, man.
Yeah.
So just keep pushing. Now let's get into the little specs of the Web3 and global mapping industry. Sure. How does digital mapping industry operate presently, and how has it evolved?
Yeah, so there's kind of a couple major approaches to the way maps got built historically. So one is what I refer to as the Google Maps approach. And the Google Maps approach is, hey, we have a lot of money, and we're just going to throw money at the problem. And it works. Like, I don't mean to dismiss it, right? I think they've actually built, a quality map. But it's a very expensive map. And, they have all these Google Street View cars. Each of those Google Street View cars cost like $500,000 each. They have their own airplanes in a lot of cases. And so it works, but it's very expensive. And they own everything, right? They own like the full stack. Then you have other projects that are referred to as, free or unpaid labor crowdsourced. Okay, let me break that down. So these are people who are just contributing or volunteering their time to help build a map. So Waze is a good example of this. So Waze there were two parts of Waze. There was the part that you and I probably use, which is the app, on your iPhone and Android. And, you're driving, they're collecting all that information. They're helping build a map, right? You're identifying, hey, there's a police person here. There's a broken down car here. There's traffic, right? So you're helping them build the map. Then there's an additional 30,000 set of people. And those 30,000 people, they're sitting behind a screen tediously editing a map. So they're saying like this street over here is one way, speed limit is 35, like very, very kind of tedious stuff in a map. Okay. And so when Waze was sold to Google for I think it was about 1.2 billion, the employees made out fine, the investors made out fine, as they should, do not begrudge them at all. But all of those people who helped build the map, especially the 30,000 that were tediously sitting many, many hours behind their desk, helping edit and create this map, they got nothing. And so I think that's fundamentally wrong, right? Which is, all of these people and their collective effort is building tremendous value, right? And so that maybe each individual didn't really fully appreciate the value of their data in isolation. But when you take all that data together, it's incredibly valuable and they should be rewarded. And so that's where we've gone a little bit of a different approach and said, look, if you're helping us build this map and this thing is important and valuable to the world, then via the token, you're going to be part of the team that's going to be rewarded for that.
Okay. Very interesting. Very interesting. Now, Hivemapper is a strong example of a Web3 project that stands presently for what Web 3.0 has built for a decentralized ecosystem where power lies in the hands of the people. Why is that version important, and how does Hivemapper work towards this?
So is the question trying to break it down there. So this question really why is it important to put the power back into the people? Is that really the crux of the question?
Yes.
Okay. I think so. There's a couple of answers to that. One is kind of the previous answer in terms of Waze, right? Which is, frankly, how do we not shaft people? If you're doing work and you're contributing work and you're contributing data, I think the days of hey, help us edit this thing or help us create this thing and it's going to be fun and you'll get a free t-shirt. I think most people at this point kind of realize that's a silly game where all those people who are quote unquote, volunteering or crowdsourcing are getting shafted if we're really being blunt. Mm-hmm. So I think by returning the power to the people and saying no, there's a different deal here that we got going on. Right. And I think Web3 is a great example of how that different deal gets manifested. That's putting power back into people's hands, saying, no, my time, my data has tremendous value. So that's the biggest, that's where I start. I think the other part is, and this is maybe a little bit more specific to maps, is we only have one Earth, right? And there's only one human species on this Earth, and that's us. And so, how we navigate this Earth is through a map, obviously. And so, what more should be owned, could be owned, or is important to be owned by the human species than a map, right? This is our world. We're the only human species on it. We need to navigate this world, and we need to do so efficiently to make use of our limited time here. It only makes sense that the map should be owned by the people who help build the map, who inhabit this Earth. And so I think that crypto gives us that opportunity to kind of say, look, here's an economic model that returns power to the people who are actually building the map and also enables us to be the end owners of the map and not one single corporate entity.
Okay. And so could you explain what makes Hivemapper different from Google Maps and Apple Maps? Most importantly, how a community-built map can dethrone these digital mapping giants?
Yeah. So I'm gonna focus more on Google Maps here because I think Apple's taken a little bit of a different approach here. So Google Maps is really the primary focus. Look, we talked about this a little bit in terms of how the fact that Google Street View cars are very expensive, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so even for Google, you go to a city like Lagos, Nigeria, Manila. Lagos, Nigeria has 20 million people almost, right? The last I checked, I think Manila was like at 13 or 14. Don't quote me on that, but it's a big, region, very, very populated region with amazing people. And Google is limited just given how expensive it is to map those areas in terms of how frequently they can refresh it, right? And the cost they need to charge businesses in order to use that data, just given their costs. And so that really stifles the coverage, the freshness, as well as the innovation, right? All these other businesses can't use all of that. And so our approach is definitely a lot more cost effective, right? If you put into cold, hard numbers, a $500 million investment will give the Hivemapper community at large roughly 1 million dash cams, okay? A 500 million investment in Google Street View cars will get them 1,000 dash cams, right? So
Okay.
just orders of magnitude different in terms of the community's ability, the Hivemappers community's ability to see many more places around the world and then see them more frequently. So that's really where we start in terms of that coverage and that freshness. And then the second part is cost, right? Just given how much more cost effective it is, because these cars are already on the road, right? You're already driving, right? We're not asking people to do things they already do. We can offer these products and services to other businesses at much, much more cost-effective rates.
Now, why are tech monopolies harmful to the global community, and why is it important to distribute these patterns?
Yeah. Well, this is definitely a big topic right now, right? Which is
Mm-hmm.
in the community, in the larger kind of tech and crypto world. I think it's any industry. I don't think it's like just tech, is that as those industries mature, you definitely have some people who, some organizations who are looking to maintain the status quo because the status quo is serving them very well, right? Like if you were running one of those business organizations, you would probably make very rational decisions, which is, hey, the status quo is generating, whatever it is, 25, 30, $40 billion of profit every single year. Not a bad deal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to use all those levers of power to maintain that control. And they've done that. And okay, what's the problem with that for society as a whole? For society as a whole, that means is the next generation of innovative products and services are going to be that much harder for two reasons. One is the talent, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, what does Google and many other companies do is they just basically hoard all the talent within their organizations, right? And then the other thing is they will, as things get really potentially competitive, they block them out, right? They block them out from distribution channels. They block them out from monetization. They use political powers to block them out. That ultimately ends up hurting the consumer, right? Because the consumers are not getting those next generation of innovative products and services that 99.9% of the time come from the younger companies, not the existing companies.
Okay. Yeah. And I think that now, like, since the crypto winter is going on,
Yeah.
and we're getting like the companies that are sticking with it and are actually growing during the tough times are going to have exponential value later on in the future when the bull market does come, and like it's just going to be like, how do I say, fulfilling that you guys and other companies have stuck it out and dug through the hard times.
Yeah. No, we definitely talk about this as a team, right? It's like this is a little bit like war, and you're definitely going to be battle hardened by this war, whether you like it or not. But it's part of the process, right? And the part of the journey of building something. Like if you just come in expecting, only good times and only rosy times, then I think that's a little bit naive, quite frankly. Like you're going to have ups and downs. And you just need to be able to manage both of those different situations. And they call for different modes of working and different mentalities at different points in time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. How important is it to foster innovation in the Web3?
I mean, I would say it a little bit differently. I would say it's really important to focus on utility, like things that matter to customers and, consumers